going to talk to you today about something I found to be quite disturbing and a little bit in sort of, in a way, problematic, because it indicates to me how we tend to shape ourselves, our knowledge of the world, through negativity. I recently taught a class where one of the assignments, and it was sort of a canned course, I couldn't really change the assignments or anything, which to me speaks to why it's important to allow professors to have some input or flexibility into the assignment. But the idea was to say, okay, this is a personal narratives class. Now, what were the timeline items? What happened in the world when you were growing up in your life? And what were the events that you remember that shaped your awareness? And, without even one exception, they were all just sort of chronicles of carnage and violence and traumatic things, which I think is telling, because we're being kind of taught by the media and by everybody else that the things that shape our lives, the important things in the world outside us, are the ones that make us feel insecure, that trouble us. But we're not even looking at the positive things. So, okay, obviously 9/11 got included. Some of the things started with, Oklahoma City bombing. Where were you at the time? JFK assassination. Other types of things that happened, that the Virginia Tech, Columbine, just the list of violently intrusive events, intrusive media events that were all about violence. So I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice to reshape that so that these are news items, they make inventions that changed your life. So things like the Xerox machine, the cell phone, iPods, fax machines, of course, personal computers, the internet, technological innovations. Wouldn't that be better? Or medical advances that shaped your life? I think that it's important for us, as we go into the world, to learn how to write assignments or to shape our knowledge of the world and how it affects us through the positive things, through constructive things, rather than the almost cliched horror types of horrific carnage, terrible things. And to a certain degree, those things are so large, and that, like 9/11, that it's even hard to even say anything that touches anyone, except in this massive way that's just become so vague. So sometimes I think it's better to say, do a timeline of sort of trivial things and how those affected you. Say even trivial events or seemingly inconsequential events, but for some reason you remember them. I think that would be more revelatory about how we have learned to create and shape our own narratives and our sense of self and being in the world. And it would speak to individuals, because the small things sometimes are the things that you remember. For example, if you've been through a divorce, what is it that you remember back about that marriage? Do you remember the bad things? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes the intrusive thoughts are the wonderful times, the beautiful times. So then, that's what sort of makes it poignant, is that those were the things that were so great about it. When you lose a person and you lose a relative, even if you've had a vexed relationship and it's been sort of punctuated with pain, etc., what is it about that you remember? What are the intrusive thoughts? Sometimes they're the little tiny things, like you were at a Baskin-Robbins eating an ice cream cone and part of it dropped, or where you're just this flash memory of sort of sitting in Starbucks and talking with a person, or just walking someplace. They're not the big events. They're not the Waco terrorist things, or the Waco tragedy. So I I don't know. I'm not being very articulate, but just wanted to think a little bit about how we think of ourselves, define ourselves vis-a-vis timelines, and how that can be used to create an interesting paper and even a more interesting sense of like a personal narrative or memoir. So that's food for thought. And the next time I'll talk about maybe connecting your life, not chronologically, but to say, to things that are, say, I wouldn't say certain music things because that's really hard to connect to. Not emotionally, it's hard for the reader to connect to them, especially if they haven't read it, but maybe different chains of, or fashions or innovations. So that's it.